Hey guys and girls, welcome back to our course on Tableau. In this session, we're going to be discussing yet another question we have of our data that I've received from our stakeholders while speaking to them. And they basically came to me and they said, Waqar, we see that Sam here made the most number of sales for the central region, and that's absolutely fantastic. But what we're actually looking to do now is to figure out who actually made the most money in profits when they made all of these sales. So what this translates to is really just because Sam sold 13 things does not necessarily mean he made the most money for the company. And how do we come up with that, right? It's because it's very well possible that Sam may have sold 13 of the cheapest items on the list. Meaning if Sam sold 13 items at $1 profit each, and as we could see here, Lamont has 7 sold things, right? If Lamont sold 7 things that had $18 in profit of each product that he sold, obviously Lamont is the one that's making more money for the company than Sam is. So that's the kind of information that we're looking for. And here is where we can dive really quick into calculated fields in Tableau. And this is going to get its own section here. We're going to discuss in detail in a next session, but I just want to kind of expose you guys to this idea early on so that you understand what calculated fields are. Calculated fields in Tableau are basically a way for you to create a point of data for Tableau to process that isn't within your original result set. And this could be anything from numeric calculations or a custom field that you come up with to really get creative in terms of how the information is processed within your Tableau visual. So for example, in this case, what we're looking to do is we're trying to find out who in reality made the highest number of profits out of this central region list, right? So obviously we already have the region here, we already have a central region filter, we already have our rep names and the number of records for the number of line items that were sold. Now what we're looking to do is find out the profit, and profit, as we all know, and if you don't, it's a very simple calculation. The profit is nothing more than the actual sale price minus the cost of the item, and basically what that ends up with is it gives you the difference in the actual cost of the item to find out who indeed out of the items that they sold made the most profit. So the way that we're going to handle that is through a calculated field. So the way that calculated fields work in Tableau is that you can create them, and they're custom fields that you actually simply create on your own, and it allows you to really get creative in terms of what type of information that you display. So now that since we want to create a profit and we don't have such a field, we're going to create that field using a custom field. So what I want you to do is up next to dimensions on this down click arrow, you'll see 2 things here: create calculated field, create parameter. And they're going to get their own individual sections here like I mentioned, but for now let's go ahead and click create calculated field. Okay, and we can go ahead and already name this calculated field. We'll go ahead and name that something like sales profit. Okay, and in here, this box here is where you actually write out your expressions, and Tableau has its way of giving you examples of all the different types of expressions that you can use in Tableau. But in this case, it's really simple, and it's actually this clicking arrow. So if you don't see it, all you gotta do is click this arrow here and it'll pop up. But in this case, we're calculating profits, right? So the way that we're going to calculate our profit is that we're going to take our sale price, and as you can tell, as soon as we start typing sale, it shows us these 2 fields here. It shows the sale date and sale price. Sale date is up here, and sale price is down here. So Tableau already knows that we're referencing one of our fields. So the way that it works is sales price, okay? And let's go ahead and type that again so that Tableau picks it up. Sale price, okay? And the way that we are going to do it is sale price minus the item cost, okay? And as we will see, this calculation is valid. So for example, if you were to reference an item in here that did not actually exist, then Tableau would throw an error at you. So for example, if I was to do item with a D cost, it would tell me that there's a calculation error. And if you highlight the red line, just like Microsoft Word, there's a red line that pops up under it. It tells me reference to an undefined field, item D cost, because item D cost does not exist. The actual field is item cost, and you'll see that it turned yellow and tells you that the calculation is valid. So now we can go ahead and click OK on this, and now you can see we have an equal sign with this pound sign here, which kind of tells us basically that this is a calculated field. And you'll see that there is no equal sign next to the other fields here or up here, any of them, it's because they come in with the data set. So anything with an equal sign is basically a calculated field. And we have an equal sign next to the number of records because this is something that Tableau created for us to be able to count the line-by-line items that we used to be able to show that how many things each person sold. And the way that we did that, remember, is we took the number of records and we dragged it into rows. And since it was a continuous field, Tableau already knew that this is a numeric field, so it summed it up for us. So it gives us the total for that. So that's basically how that one worked. But in this case, since we created our sales profit, we are basically taking the sales price minus the item cost, and that gives us how much profit that we made on a particular sale. So now we have the number of items that the person sold, and now we want to see by sales profit who made the most profit for our company for the central region, right? So we can take our sales profit, this new calculated field, and let's go ahead and drop that right here on color. And what you'll automatically see is that we now have a color representation of the sum of sales profit. And what that tells us is basically by color, and you'll see a legend pop up here, and it shows us that the lowest number of sale is $33.07 and the highest is $602.03. All right, and basically that's determined by the color. So the lighter the color, the lower the sum of sales profit, and the higher or the deeper the color, the higher the sum of sales profit. So if we look at our chart here, we can very clearly see not only who sold the most number of units by the size of the bar chart, but we can also tell who made the highest profit. And you can automatically see that Tableau, once we go over the tooltip, the white box that shows up here, we could see the individual sales profit that's being generated by each person. So we could see that Sam generated $445.30. We could see sales profit of $602 for Bobby, right? So here we can see right here, right away, that Sam, although he sold more things, right? He sold 13 and Bobby sold 12. His color is actually lighter than Bobby, and that's very evident in the sales profit number as well. As we can see, 602.30 is the highest sales profit, and we can see that right here because our sum of sales profit legend tells us that the range ends at 602.30 and the lowest is $33.07. So we to see this $33.70, we are looking for the lightest color in this. So if we look here, we can see that this is pretty light. It's $133.70. We can see that there's some light areas here, and we can also see that Oren has a sales profit of $33.70. Now, one other trend that we can notice here is we can gradually see that as the sales number of records decreases, so does the profit. And that kind of totally makes sense, right? Because although sales number, the number of units sold is irrespective of the sales profit, we can derive that if someone sold a large number of items, they probably have a higher profit than someone that didn't sell as many items, considering we know that the type of items we're selling, right? We know that we're selling tables, lamps, and other types of furniture. We can kind of derive that if someone sold 13 things and someone only sold 2, even if they sold 2 lamps, right, and someone else sold like, something really cheap like a cup or something, 13 cups and 2 lamps, the profit should be higher on the cups because they just sold a larger number of units. And we can kind of see that trend here in our data. So it's very, very interesting. So now that we've had that information in our chart, we can now show our stakeholders the number of units that were sold per user, per person, per sales rep in the central region, but we can also come up with the sales profit number. And the way that that is calculated is that it is the sales price minus the item cost. So once you are grouping them by the central region and the rep name, you will be able to automatically see the sales profit per person. Remember what we said about dimensions is that they are used to group the measures. All right, the measures are the calculated fields. All right, they are the ones that are doing the quantitative analysis, and the dimensions are doing the qualitative or the descriptive analysis. So we can see that the Sam, the Bobby, these are all different dimensions, all right, as well as central. We can see that range and the rep name, region and rep name up here in the columns, and we can see that the rows are the number of records, right, which is being shown by the bar chart, and the detail, the marks detail, is on color, which represents the sales profit in color. All right, guys, so that being said, I think that's basically what I'm going to do for this session here. I think we went through a lot here. So what I want you to do is kind of sit here and play around with this, right? Play around with the different fields and the way that you can analyze the different information and create a bar chart of your own. All right. I think the most important thing is that we're sitting here and we're practicing in these sessions, so that way we are grasping not only the things that I'm showing you, but you'll also have that practical practice that you need to be able to come up with your own custom solutions for a variety of issues that you will face when working with Tableau and the various requirements that you'll have in terms of what your users want to see. So the more creative you are, the more exposure that you have to the different types of views and the different types of bar charts, the better it is for you. So speaking of different views and bar charts, what we can also do is to pivot this information and to basically flip this information on its y-axis. So how that works is basically we saw the ascending and descending, and if we click this, we could descend and ascend the information accordingly, and it's the exact same thing, it's just reverse order, right? But to the left of that, we also have swap rows and columns, and what that should do is it should take the region and the rep name and drop it to the rows, and take the sum of number of records and bring that up into columns. So think about that for a second. What do you think that will look like? If our columns are currently the names and the central region, and we basically swap the columns and rows, we should essentially see that the number of records is on top now, right? So we should probably see this number here across the top, since we're going to be bringing this, and since we're swapping it, we should see our central region and our names represented as a list going down. So let's go ahead and try that and see if we're right. And voila, so once we click that swap rows and columns, we can see that just like we said, the number of rows, the sum of number of rows has now gone into the columns, and the region and the rep name is now in the rows. So we can see that the number of records, right, these are the various columns. So these, you can see, are those initial bar chart views. Remember those lines we saw for the bar charts? It's kind of the same thing. And the region and the rep name is now on the row. So we can see that there's a region and a rep name, and this is the central region, and it's basically showing that this whole bar for the central region is responding to all of these different rep names. So right here we can see that rep is kind of cut off. What I want you to do is basically come in here, and basically we can try to expand this, and the way that you do that is to go to any rep name, all right, and basically expand that column here. And we could see that we now see all of the rep names and the region, and we kind of see the same exact view, right? Sam, in descending order, we see Sam with 13 number of units sold and the sales profit of 445. And we also see Bobby here, who has 12 units sold and a sales profit of 602.30. Now, that's all we're going to do for this section here, guys. In the next section, we're going to try to pretty this up a bit. And what I mean by that is we're going to get into formatting in terms of how dollars and cents actually look in Tableau. The number of records, 11, 12, 13, this looks great as whole numbers, but sales profits are actually dollar values. And we want that to show up here so that we don't confuse our users between whether they're looking at the number of sales profits that occurred or the number of records that we have. So let's go ahead and add that in our next session here, as well as we're going to give our sheet a name and mess around with these colors a bit and make this look a little better. All right, guys, so that being said, I'm going to wrap it up for this session. In this session, we went over finding out which one of our reps created the highest number of sales profits through our central region. And the way that we did that is, since we didn't have a sales profit field, right, we wanted to create that field within Tableau, and I intentionally left that field out so that we could create it in Tableau. So the way that we calculated that is we went down here, we clicked create calculated field, and that basically showed us a pop-up window in which we named our sales profit field, and we also put in our calculation, which was the sales price minus the cost, and that will give us the profit per line for our individual sales reps for the items that they sold. All right, guys, and we basically then took the sales profit and we dropped it onto the color, and since it was a continuous field, Tableau already knew to aggregate that information as a sum of sales profit. And basically the color is what's dictating the profits, and the actual line and the bar chart views are being dictated by the columns and the rows. All right, guys, so that's it. I'm going to end it right here. In the next session, we're going to try to clean this up a bit, like I said, and I will see you there. All right, guys, thank you.